Here's an easy two-part dessert that'll give you the sense of summer any time of year. My blueberry tart with a shortbread crust. Let me show you how I do it. Okay, part one is the shortbread crust. And for that you'll just need some butter, salt, a little bit of vanilla, as well as some flour and sugar. And then part two is our filling. So I'm going to use some frozen blueberries, along with some lemon, again a touch of sugar and some cornstarch to thicken it up. Alright, let's put this all together. Okay, I've started to put some things together for our crust already, and first off I've preheated the oven to 350 and I got our dry ingredients together, which are all in this bowl. So I have a cup of all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of cornstarch, and a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. I normally use that flaky salt, but I want to make sure that this salt is distributed evenly, so a little kosher salt works well here. Also in our stand mixer, or you could do this with a hand mixer, I'm going to throw in our stick of butter, and along with that a 1/4 cup of sugar, and just let those cream up together. And don't throw this away because we're going to butter our tin with that in just a second. I'm also going to add our vanilla to the mixer, just a nice half teaspoon or so. So the butter, flour, and sugar have really creamed up well, and I should emphasize that butter needs to be extremely room temperature. So leave it out overnight to make sure it's soft enough. And now I'm just adding our dry ingredients to our butter and sugar and vanilla. Okay, I've added all of our dry ingredients to our wet, and if it's not quite coming together, I just like to add another tablespoon or so of water to actually bring it all together to a dough. It's coming together nicely, and also I've taken that butter wrapper and just really slathered our tin. I have one of these tins, not a lot of money, that has the lift out sort of bottom to it, but this would also work well in an 8-inch round cake pan. I would just line it maybe with some parchment paper, butter both sides. And we're just going to dump it out right into our tin and press it out in our mold here. You want to get every last bit. Alright, our dough feels very good, looks very good. We're going for about 1/4 inch, and we want to make sure we get it up the sides as well. So just press it in as evenly as you can. Once we get it evened out, we're going to toss it in our hot oven to set up, and after about 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to poke the bottom of the tart with a fork so it doesn't puff up for the rest of the cooking time, and let it go till the edges are golden. Okay, our shortbread crust has come out of the oven. All of the edges are nice and golden. We need to let this cool completely before we fill it. And this size of a tart pan took about 20 to 25 minutes, so really depending on the shape and even your oven temperature, just keep an eye on it. So we're going to let this guy cool, and let's get on to that blueberry filling. Adding about 2 cups of our frozen blueberries to an empty sauce pot. And again, these are frozen blueberries. You could certainly use fresh. I'm going to add just a touch of water and start to bring that up to a boil, along with 3 to 4 tablespoons or up to 1/4 cup of sugar. Depending on how sweet your berries are, I think I'm going to leave a little bit back, maybe about 3 tablespoons. And we'll let that just start to go. Okay, so we have our blueberries on the heat, and I'm just taking the zest off some of these beautiful lemons. I'll use the zest just as a sprinkling over top of the whole tart at the very end, give it a nice little bit of color and a note of sour with all of that sweet. And what I'm about to do is juice both lemons, but I've already put a tablespoon of cornstarch in this little bowl before I put our juice in, and this will be our thickener. We're going for something that's sort of like blueberry pie filling, but a little bit thicker, so when you cut the tart it doesn't ooze out everywhere. And just like the tart that's chilling, I want the blueberry mixture to be pretty cool before I pour it in. So I've reserved another ½ cup of the frozen blueberries just to help it cool down once we take it off the heat. Okay, our blueberries are doing really well. They've all come up to the boil, and so now I'm just going to add our slurry of cornstarch and lemon juice, just a couple of tablespoons at a time, till I start to see that thickening happen. We want to keep a boil going, And I'm going for something that's a little bit on the thick side so we don't get a lot of oozing out of the tart. That's looking really good. Maybe just a touch more. Okay, that's thickened up nicely. I'm going to take it off the heat and let this mixture cool down a little bit. Let's add some of these frozen blueberries just to let that help a little bit more. And I don't want to chill this. I still want it to be a little bit loose so we can pour it into the tart shell. Our tart shell's pretty cool right now. We'll need to wait just a little while for this to cool down as well. And then we'll do our final assembly. Delicious. Let's try and unmount this a little bit. Just taking an offset spatula, or you could take a knife and loosen it from the bottom of my tart shell. Just make sure it comes off cleanly. And it does, because it's so buttery. Our filling is just slightly warm, enough to keep it flowing before it starts to thicken up any more. Looks great. And we're just going to gently coax it into all the parts of the tart shell. Really, really looks good. Blueberry tart with a shortbread crust. I hope you tried this recipe at home, and I hope you enjoy.